That was exciting for the first time. The time is 9:31, and the May 18th meeting of the Committee on Community, Environment, and Economic Development is coming to order. This meeting is being held in room 201B of the Milwaukee County Courthouse. Any members of the public who would like to speak, you can do so by either filling out a blue comment card that's over there on the side there by the pink printer. I think that's a printer. I'm not sure what that is. Otherwise, you can go online and fill out a digital form by going to milwaukee.gov/public comment. And then you would join us via Teams. The public is welcome to submit e-comments. That's what I just talked about. So I think we are ready then, Madam Coordinator, to call roll to establish quorum.
Supervisors Roundtree Jr.,
Present.
Taylor,
Here.
Logston,
Present.
O'Connor.
Present.
Madam Chairwoman,
Here.
there are 5 members present. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for being at my very first SEED committee meeting as chair. I'm sure it's as exciting for you as it is for me. We're going to go a little bit out of order today. We've had a request from Director Helly that item number 3 get moved up to item number 1 because of some time constraints he has. So we'll direct him up to the chair now.
I have to call the item into the record.
Oh, yes, please, Madam Coordinator, call the item into the record.
Item 3, from the Director of Office of Sustainability, Department of Administrative Services, Facilities Management Division, requesting a implementation update for WY062502 Climate Action 2050. This file is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Good morning. My name is Grant Helly. I'm the Director of the Office of Sustainability. Thank you all. Madam Chair, thank you as well for accommodating this agenda order this morning. I truly appreciate it. If you give me just a moment, I would like to share a brief presentation for this item this morning.
Absolutely.
Great. All right, wonderful. Thank you all once again for the opportunity to be here this morning. I am quite excited to join you to give an update on the Office of Sustainability's work and specifically the Climate Action 2050 plan. Briefly, what I'll cover this morning is a little bit of background information about the development of the climate plan. For some, that's certainly not new news, and we appreciate the ongoing input that's been received over the past few years for that, and for others it may be somewhat new, so I look forward to giving you a brief overview of that. As well, we'll follow up with some implementation updates of what's happened in the past 12 or 13 months. Briefly want to touch on a few risks, challenges, and most importantly, what we're doing to address those, and then I'll follow with some actions for sustained progress as we continue to move forward. As always, to kind of set the groundwork for why I'm here this morning and why the Climate Action 2050 plan exists and is being implemented today. Back in 2021, the County Board of Supervisors passed resolution file number 21389, establishing Milwaukee County's carbon neutrality or net zero operational emissions by 2050 goal, and asked the Office of Sustainability to develop a strategic plan for doing so. And what came of that was a multi-year process, but ultimately in April of this previous year, the County Board passed a resolution adopting the climate plan, and at the end of April, at the end of Earth Week last year, actually, the Milwaukee County Executive signed the file. We held a great file signing ceremony, and that fully established our carbon neutral goals and kind of outlined the steps that we'll take to achieve that. Much more recently, this past month, we also held a file signing for a recommitment. This is, in my opinion, a very important step for Milwaukee County to continue making a declaration. This was a resolution that was co-authored by Chairwoman Nicholson Bovell as well as Supervisor Ann O'Connor. Appreciate their leadership on that. And ultimately, we recommitted to the principles and goals of the Paris Agreement, as well as reaffirmed our support for the scientific findings of the greenhouse gas endangerment finding. Okay, when we talk about carbon neutrality or what net zero operational emissions means, really that includes scope 1 and scope 2 emissions. A scope 1 emission is a direct emission. You think something like tailpipe emissions from our vehicles. They're directly associated with Milwaukee County's operational control. Scope 2 emission is an indirect emission. This is something that's generated by our purchased energy. I'll touch on this a bit later, but all of our facilities consume various commodities or types of energy, and the emissions that are associated with generating that are in our purview as well. This does exclude scope 3 emissions, which would be indirect non-county emissions. Example I always use of this would be emissions associated with Milwaukee Mitchell Airport are within our purview, but those emissions of the actual aircraft taking off and landing are not associated with Milwaukee County. I also want to share that when I sat here a year ago and asked for approval of the Climate Action Plan, we did share some countywide emissions numbers. We're using a 2005 baseline year, and when I sat here last year, I reported a number of 46% reduction in county's emissions for the year. And for the first time today, I'm happy to share that our most recent inventory is now reporting a 48% reduction in county operational emissions. So we're continuing to make progress and head in the right direction. I want to mention that this is driven by both our buildings and facilities, as well as transportation greenhouse gas reductions over the past year. And this is the lowest reported numbers on record for Milwaukee County. We're quite proud of that, but I do recognize there's still a long way to go. This certainly, with this updated number of a 48% reduction since 2005, puts us on track for our 2030 milestone of a 50% reduction as we continue to head towards net zero. Briefly, a little bit of a background of why Milwaukee County is concerned about carbon emissions and lowering our overall emissions. Really, what I think it boils down to is that climate change is a health equity issue. Through our development process, we identified, through a vulnerability assessment rather, 3 critical concerns. Some of you may have heard me say many, many times what these are here in Milwaukee County. Unfortunately, we've experienced all 3 of these firsthand in just even the past 12 months since we adopted this climate plan. Those consist of extreme heat waves, increasing temperatures, increased precipitation and therefore flooding, as well as increased acute air quality hazards. As you can see on the left side of my screen here, this is an adapted social vulnerability index. And by identifying the social vulnerability index, Milwaukee County can understand and identify our regions and our neighborhoods that need additional support in helping to adapt to these impacts or these critical concerns that you see here at the bottom. This truly is crucial to ensuring that our vulnerable populations throughout Milwaukee County receive the necessary support that they need to build climate resilience. So in my opinion, this is certainly a health equity issue, and I'm very proud that Milwaukee County continues to address this in the ways that we are. All right, one more background slide. I'm going to go through this relatively briefly, but what this has looked like is a multi-year planning process that we kicked off at the tail end of 2022, believe it or not, and did a whole lot of things to get us to a adopted climate action plan. We worked collaboratively with all county departments to develop specific projects to help them reduce operational emissions over time. We did this through many meetings, collaborative discussions, and really what it is rooted in is understanding the strategic vision or strategic priorities that each department's leadership have and identifying ways that those overlap with emissions reduction efforts. And we found a lot of success in that so far and think that that'll continue to drive additional emissions reduction. We've hosted a whole lot of community engagement sessions over the past few years. This includes just overall community engagement sessions. This includes community presentations, education events, other meetings. In a previous informational report, I have shared kind of an engagement tracker of what all of these have consisted of. At this point, we're well over 40, if not 50 different engagements discussing these efforts, these issues, and the ongoing work by Milwaukee County. Ultimately, we spent 2024 and parts of 2025 developing the Climate Action 2050 Plan document itself. This includes the individual department by department plans and the strategies that they'll undertake to achieve carbon neutrality. And along the way, we've reported out to leadership, including county board supervisors, committees, other leadership from departments throughout the county. The input that we've received has been invaluable and ultimately helped shape the document and the strategic plan that we're moving forward on today. So how are we going to achieve this? This matrix that you see here is directly out of our Climate Action 2050 plan. And this is kind of our diverse approach for emissions reduction. So very briefly, what we have already been doing and plan to continue doing is avoiding new sources of emissions. This happens through things like our sustainable design standards that we adopted last year as well and are being applied to many projects, capital projects throughout Milwaukee County right now. A great example of this, kind of in alignment with an item that you'll hear later this morning, is our Investing in Justice Courthouse Complex project. Very recently, a few months ago, I presented to Supervisor Taylor and the advisory committee for IJCC, giving just an example of a very specific project of how we're considering opportunities or types of equipment. I know it's early on in the process, but we're strategically trying to plan right now for how we can avoid new sources of emissions. And we want that to be at the forefront of our decision-making process for design, construction, replacement projects. That's just one example of many that we continue to roll out this year and into the future as well. Next, we'll look to reduce existing emissions by implementing efficiency practices. This is happening all throughout Milwaukee County and our departments right now, just through equipment replacements and regular efficiency upgrades, and we're seeing some emissions reduction because of that. Next, we'll look to substitute fuel sources for lower carbon alternatives, looking to potentially move from energy commodities like steam and gas to different opportunities like electricity. And as I'll touch on later, there's some considerations for the emissions that are associated with that as well, but it's certainly top of mind for us right now. And something that we will look at later down the road, years from now, for those near impossible to abate emissions, we will consider purchasing renewable energy credits or credible carbon offsets where necessary. But really, we're focused on avoiding, reducing, and substituting at this time. Okay. So kind of the meat and potatoes of what I'm sharing today is the progress or what Milwaukee County has been up to in the past 12 or 13 months. And I'll just briefly go through a few of these. In the energy efficiency category, there's been more than I can count projects related to LED lighting conversions, greater HVAC upgrades. We're planning for large-scale retro commissioning of our facilities throughout the county. Here in the courthouse complex, we've done a steam trap survey and replacement. That's helping to hopefully increase efficiency of how we heat and cool this facility. And this has been completed by many departments, as you can see on screen here. Just one example of this would be the Milwaukee County Zoo, who just in the past year or a little more have stood up 3 new animal habitats and included high-efficiency design considerations where possible. We're also looking at clean energy deployment. The Department of Administrative Services, Department of Health and Human Services together have collaborated to consider clean energy opportunities and feasibility studies throughout Milwaukee County. Our partners and our colleagues with the Strategy, Budget, and Performance Office have helped to leverage state and federal funding opportunities. This looks like things like Focus on Energy incentive funds that have brought tens of thousands of dollars back to Milwaukee County for efficiency projects, as well as Inflation Reduction Act clean energy direct pay tax credits that we anticipate on receiving for this project that I'm sharing right here, which is the new bifacial solar photovoltaic system that is installed on top of the new Marsha P. Cogs Health and Human Services Center over on Cherry Street, not too far from here. As far as fleet optimization, the Department of Transportation continues to pilot electric vehicles. There have been quite a transition from internal combustion engine vehicles to hybrids, as well as some electric vehicles. That continues. And large efforts to right-size our vehicle fleet throughout Milwaukee County as well. And the Milwaukee County Transit System continues to operate our existing fleet of battery electric buses too. And for kind of a brief pause here, I wanted to share just a few photos because they're kind of fun, so why not? On the left here, you see that rooftop solar panel system at the Marsha P. Cogs Health and Human Services Center. That is a 50 kilowatt solar panel system. It has a little over 80 solar panels. We anticipate that that'll save Milwaukee County more than $9,000 annually on energy costs, and that should offset more than 11% of that building's energy usage. I know it's a little overcast this morning, but I did check our live tracker for this last Friday. So as of last Friday, that solar system has generated more than 4 megawatt hours of energy so far just in the month of May. And as we get into summer and hopefully some more sunny months, we should see that continue to increase as well. And on the right there is one of the fully electric Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office squad vehicles that's being piloted in collaboration with Sheriff's Office and Department of Transportation right now. And the other half of our progress that I wanted to share here is our resilience efforts, our environmental stewardship efforts. This is things like our ongoing considerations for climate resilience, disaster recovery, and emergency coordination. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of this in response to the climate hazards and climate impacts in the last 12 months here in Milwaukee County. Very thankful for our Office of Emergency Management and other departments who have coordinated on these resilience efforts. Environmental stewardship, our Parks Department, Department of Transportation, many others have spent a lot of time implementing trail conversions, water and waste reduction measures, reforestation, native planting, and we're happy to continue to support that moving forward. As well as our tracking and reporting. So I did want to share briefly for a full list of every effort that's been undertaken by departments in the last month. As an appendix to this file, you can see that full list of 50 plus efforts that have been tracked and are reported on there. Please feel free to review in your own time, and I'd be happy to chat about those if you'd like. And an important piece of this is the greenhouse gas emissions inventory, which I just shared about a moment ago. That follows a local government operations protocol in alignment with other municipalities who are tracking emissions reduction in similar ways. We'll continue to share information about this as it becomes more available in the coming weeks, months. And a big piece of this is the reporting procedure that we will look to see with our departments moving forward, and ultimately a public-facing dashboard that we think will be housed on the Office of Sustainability's webpage. And this is being developed right now at this time. We have a consulting partner on board, McKinstry, who is helping to develop what this will look like and how we can, drive impact and ultimately education for Milwaukee County residents who want to see some of the more details on what these actual strategies and projects look like as far as emissions reduction or co-benefits or how they're positively impacting our community members. So we're going to continue through that process in the coming months here, and hopefully by late summer we'll have a publicly accessible dashboard. As we're moving forward, what we're doing right now, we have some ongoing governance and engagement work. The Office of Sustainability is engaging both internal with departments as well as community members. We're engaging with others as well. This looks like the City County Advisory Board on Climate and Economic Equity. This looks like meetings and convenings with the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. And we're going to continue those throughout the weeks and this coming year as well. We continue to track on those projects that I just shared about and report out like we're doing here this morning, and we'll plan to do in the future as well. But this can't happen on our own. So this is really happening in alignment with all Milwaukee County departments. Departments have been tasked with taking leadership over their own emissions on a department-by-department basis. Certainly my office is supporting them in those efforts, but we're asking them to lead the efforts to plan, fund, and implement these projects. Some of these are things that we hope that you'll see through capital project requests and other projects moving forward. We also still have the Sustainability Task Force, which is coordinating as kind of that middle person between the Office of Sustainability and our departments. They consult with us. They report back and forth between groups, and they're really just a great communicator and coordinator to help us continue pushing for progress in these areas. So as I wrap up with just a slide or two here, I did want to share briefly some risks and challenges and what we're doing to address these. Local reliance on our utility is something that continues to be a piece of our considerations for reducing our own emissions here at the county. I kind of talked about that Scope 2 emissions and how that is related to the emissions associated with the energy that we're consuming. And we are reliant on We Energies, who's our local utility, to help green the grid and meet their own emissions reduction goals so that can be mutually beneficial in us reducing our own emissions as well. I do want to share that we do have limited control over financial risk that may be associated with our energy commodity rates. This is something that my office keeps an eye on, consults with others, but it very much is a risk, considering changes in rates. I know we're going to hear an item briefly about something like that, and that is something that our office is continuing to monitor and take account for where possible. Another potential risk challenges, we hear this often from our operating departments and we witness it firsthand. We have an aging building portfolio. We're navigating a difficult capital landscape, among other things. So that's a consideration. One thing I'm excited to share again this morning with you all is an effort that we're undertaking right now to try to account for this in a different way. We've now aligned our facility planning group within the facility management division within the Office of Sustainability. This is a kind of a new decision that's been made. I'm very excited about the prospect of what this means. I really think that this will help us to maximize our climate impact by better driving our capital planning, our facility assessment efforts, our master planning, and we can do all of that through both an environmental and financial sustainability lens, and I'm really excited, hope to see some great outcomes from that. And ultimately, again, our tracking and reporting, each department implements these projects differently and on a different timeline. So we will have our progress dashboard up and going. We want to make sure that we're improving our transparency about how we're going to share that information, but ultimately make sure that we're staying true to what's happening within our departments. And we want a standardized structure for how our departments and their staff can report that information to us and how we'll ultimately reshape that to put it out for everyone else to understand as well. And finally, sustained progress, how we're moving forward. These are kind of our 5 key points here. The Office of Sustainability will continue to advocate for, enable, and encourage additional projects to be implemented throughout Milwaukee County. And we're going to provide support wherever necessary for these future projects, both in short term and long term as well. We're going to have that progress dashboard up and going sooner than later so we can report out. We'll have a procedure for how we roll that out. We're certainly going to continue to engage the Sustainability Task Force, as well as very, very importantly, engage our community members, community organizations, the other organizations that we collaborate with on this work, so that we can all address this and stay in this fight together. So I kind of just want to wrap up by saying that I truly believe together we'll create a resilient carbon neutral community for generations to come in Milwaukee County. And as always, I'll offer that myself and my team are more than happy to meet with any supervisor one-on-one, any of your constituents or community groups that would like to discuss these efforts. That's what I do. That's what makes me happy, and I'm so happy to chat about that. So please reach out at any time. And with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to take any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Helly, and thank you for the work and the effort that you're putting together on behalf of the county for environmentalism. Does anyone on the committee have any questions? Supervisor Logsdon?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Just a quick question. I want your thoughts on the upcoming legislation that they're working on in Madison about ceasing having the emission testing. Have you, just any thoughts?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Supervisors, thank you for the question. That's not something that I've been monitoring closely and am quite familiar with at this time. Since I've been so laser focused on operational emissions right now, that's not something that I would be prepared to speak on at this moment, but I'd be happy to chat at a later time on that if you'd like. Thank you for the question, though.
Anyone else on the committee have a question? I'm not seeing, Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I would just like to say thanks to Director Helly for the really thorough report and for your leadership in this area and also your responsiveness, not only to me, but also to the committee or the community members, many of whom are in this room today, which I think is really a sign of the extensive engagement that's happened on this and adjacent issues. So I do recommend for people to take a closer look at the attached report that was provided about all the different efforts underway in Milwaukee County, everything from changes to LED lighting at the airport to stormwater management in the parks. It's a whole lot of things in action. So thank you for tracking that, monitoring it, and overseeing this really big, extensive effort. Appreciate it.
All right, and I do see that Supervisor Vincent has a question online.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And Director, a question I have, I was intrigued by the sheriff's vehicle that it sounds like is electric now or powered. Can you just let me know, is it a great cost savings for the county, and are we going to be moving to more of our fleet being solar powered?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Supervisors, thank you for that question as well. I've been working closely with our Fleet Director of the Department of Transportation with piloting this current vehicle that we have. There are some ongoing calculations being done. I can't speak to the financial numbers at this moment on what the cost savings may look like. Certainly there could be a consideration with fuel costs as we see now, what that may look like in the future. But really what the Department of Transportation and Sheriff's Office has been focused on is the usability of that vehicle through, different types of climates that we see throughout the year here. Can that meet the needs of the Sheriff's Office and their deputies? And I think we've seen mostly positive feedback. There's been some constructive feedback, which I think is good. That's going to help us consider what would be necessary to have a viable long-term rollout. So I can't speak for everybody else, but on behalf of myself, I think there's been some success with piloting that vehicle. I would be happy to continue to look into some of the financials to see if we can put together some numbers to look at a payback or what that financial feasibility looks like long term, and maybe with a larger fleet as well. But those conversations are ongoing between our departments right now. So I hope that answered your question, and thank you for that as well.
Yes, thank you. The only other question I had with that was just, are there any drawbacks if we don't have the proper amount of solar energy? Would that impede the work of our sheriff's department having that kind of vehicle?
Yes, absolutely. Madam Chair, Supervisors, thank you for that question as well. I've had great conversations with the Department of Transportation. This is what I'm talking about as well, where we're trying to implement some of that capital project decision-making into the Office of Sustainability now. When we look to implement, electric fleet vehicles, we're not just looking at the vehicle itself. We're also looking at what I call kind of the wraparound infrastructure, right? You need charging infrastructure. You need a place to house that, potentially an indoor place to house that during the winter if you want these vehicles to operate at a high level. And we're having conversations about what that, those needs are and what that could look like, and if there's potentially capital projects that would be necessary to implement so we can support it on a larger rollout. But this pilot project is what's influencing that, and I think it's what's beneficial for us to understand how we would need to roll out future facility upgrades to support that at a larger scale in the future.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. All right, thank you, Director Helly. Before we move on to the next item, I want to be respectful of everyone's time, and I see we have Chief Judge Ashley here, and he was expecting to be presenting on item number 2, which would be item number 3 if we keep going in this form. Are you okay with that? I think item number 1 is going to have probably about 20 to 30 minutes of discussion.
Well, I want to be deferential to the chair, so tell me what's good for you, and I will be available.
I don't want there to be a backlog of court cases because you had to wait at SEED. So if you've got the flexibility, we'll move on to item 1. Is that okay? All right. So Madam Coordinator, please read item number 1.
Item 1, a resolution by Supervisors O'Connor, Shea, Capriolo, Logsdon, Gomez, Tom, Martinez, Rolland, Vincent, Roundtree Jr., and Ekblad, requesting annual reporting from We Energies to support Milwaukee County's climate, infrastructure, and energy planning.
Thank you very much. And please forgive me, we're all going to go on a little bit of an adventure here on this since it's my first day as chair and I've never gone through doing this, but we do want to introduce a substitute resolution. So, Madam Coordinator, should we talk about that first, or do we need to do the roll call to introduce the substitute?
Madam Chairwoman, committee members, what's before you at this moment is the resolution as it was submitted. So in order to discuss the substitute, which is attached to the file, someone from the committee must make a motion to substitute the resolution that's currently before the committee for the substitute resolution, and then once a roll call is taken on that motion, and if it is successful, then the committee will be able to consider the substitute.
All right, I'm going to turn my attention to Supervisor O'Connor if you would like to introduce the motion.
Thank you, Chair. Although I see Vice Chair Roundtree Jr. had his microphone ready to go. So did you want to do the honors? Okay, thank you. I would like to move to substitute the resolution with the attached file. Thank you.
Go ahead.
On the motion by Supervisor O'Connor, well, the question is, shall the substitute resolution be substituted for the resolution before the committee? And on the motion by Supervisor O'Connor to substitute the resolution, Supervisors Roundtree Jr.,
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Logsdon,
Aye.
O'Connor,
Aye.
Madam Chairwoman.
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 noes. The motion to substitute prevails.
Okay, and then I think it would behoove us just to have a brief discussion on how this has all come about. So Supervisor O'Connor, would you be willing to do that?
More than willing. Thank you so much, Chairwoman. Also, before I get started, and this is also procedural, Supervisors Martin and Cogs-Jones have asked to be added, and we have a new ordinance in place that I believe does allow the author to add them in committee, so I would like that done, please. So in general, the resolution that is before us today is a result of a lot of forces happening at large in our community. First of all, we've heard from a lot of community members, many of whom are present today, with concerns about the announcement that We Energies has recently made, proposing a 14% rate hike. People are really concerned because this will impact their financial bottom line. You know, a lot of people are struggling to pay bills as it is, and this is a pretty significant hike. It caught the attention as well of the Intergovernmental Cooperation Council, which is a body that meets once a month and has representation of leadership from all 19 Milwaukee County municipalities. So it is village presidents, city mayors, and or their designees. So at last Monday's ICC meeting, they adopted a version of the resolution that is before us today. And ours responds to their urging that Milwaukee County acknowledge this proposed rate hike and express concern. The ICC resolution also asks all of the municipalities who are represented at the ICC to take similar action. So we are probably the first ones to go about this because we already had a resolution pending on the topic of the proposed rate hike. That is why we were quickly able to acknowledge what happened at the ICC and come forward with this substitute resolution. So the language does mirror that. After we adopt this, here's another fun procedural thing we'll be doing today. I did receive feedback that we could strengthen the language a little bit, so I've got a sort of, I'm going to call it a micro amendment that has some language to it's more clarifying because there was a little bit of confusion. So it's clarifying language. It looks like this is being distributed right now. My understanding is we have to first adopt the substitute before us and then amend it. So it's just a matter of phrasing. But we are basically expressing concern about how this will impact our constituents, not only financially, but health and well-being. So that is what we have before us today. Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, just on the procedure, basically, it would, once you can, it can be recommended, well, actually,
Do we need to approve the amendment first?
right, and then it would be
amend it?
recommended for, the substitute would be recommended for adoption as amended.
Now, do we want to hear from the public before we do that step, or?
It is always a good idea, Madam Chairwoman and committee members, to listen to well, at least to get public input before voting on anything would be my advice.
Okay. Just to let the public that is here know, it's a very, the amendment is very little, and I think part of it actually came from the League of Women Voters calling out the specific language that they think needed to be tweaked. I'm happy to read it if that is helpful, or we can go right into public comment. Did we have enough copies for them to be able to see it as well? If you want to maybe pass those out.
I would just make the motion to add it. And then
Make a motion to add the
yeah, and
amendment?
then you can open
Okay.
the public or first comments from this committee. committee members.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff
true.
like that,
That's true.
for the public.
All right, so I think we're good to call the roll on approving the amendment.
Someone
So,
has to
yeah,
make the
we- yeah.
motion for the amendment.
Okay,
I'll make the motion to adopt the amendment, and I think it is in Legistar, so people can refer to it online as well. So I would like to make a motion, please, to adopt the amendment. Thank you.
thank you. And now we can call the roll, please. Is there any discussion before we do that on the amendment? Okay.
On the motion by Supervisor O'Connor that seed amendment 1 to the substitute resolution for item 1, file number 26419 be amended. Supervisors Roundtree Jr.,
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Logston,
Aye.
O'Connor,
Aye.
Madam Chairwoman.
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 noes. The motion prevails.
Okay, so now is there anyone on the committee who would like to speak on this before we go to public comment? Or anyone online, any supervisors online that would like to speak to this? All right. So we've got 5 people that have signed up. I'd like to keep comments at 2 minutes each, and my vice chair, Supervisor Roundtree Jr., will have that on his phone. So first, we will welcome Candace Alley, speaking in favor.
Good morning, Chairwoman and supervisors. My name is Candace Owley. I'm Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Milwaukee County, and I'm here representing the League. The League of Women Voters continues support to the county's efforts, particularly after listening to the excellent presentation earlier on your path to net zero carbon emissions by 2050. We do support the substitute resolution before you today. Because it promises serious coordinated local effort to prevent an impending climate crisis and ensure no person or group suffer legal, economic, or administrative discrimination. Our League, as many of you know, the League grounds all of its positions and testimony in our long history of researched positions. And we find 3 areas of the League positions that support this position. So first of all, accountability. Several provisions of this resolution point to the PSC responsibility to be accountable to ratepayers, residents, business, and local governments. So accountability itself depends on full transparency of all the applications that come before the PSC. Second, transparency. It ensures a safe, reliable, affordable, environmentally responsible utility services. The WPS, Wisconsin Public Service Commission, again, should be responsible to Wisconsin ratepayers for assuring transparency of its processes and its decisions. So we find the provisions of File 419 with its resolve to review the proposed rate increase are thorough, critical, and detailed so local stakeholders will be informed. Transparency and reliable data are necessary for energy planning, for affordable rates, and for wise investments in climate-resilient infrastructure. And we've long supported cooperation among government entities. The Milwaukee County Board has strong encouragement that all 19 municipalities act similarly is consistent with the necessity for a holistic approach to addressing regional energy planning and consumer energy rates. At all municipal approaches, all regions, all states, all nations approach is necessary if we are to stabilize the Earth's climate and meet our local climate goals. So with this background and with these positions, the League feels that they can support this substitute amendment and with the newly adjusted amendments that came in for clarification based on some questions that we had. So we appreciate that additions too.
And your 2 minutes is up.
Okay, and I would say as just speaking as an individual, that I hope that you can at some point go even further and oppose these rate increases, which are so difficult and detrimental to our community. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we have Kat Claus with Citizen Action speaking in favor. You can put the alarm up, doesn't it ring?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Supervisors. My name is Kat Claus with Citizen Action. I think that this resolution is an important first step, scrutinizing We Energies. Since 2022, there's been an over 25% increase to people's rates. For a lot of our residents, that's more than just a bill. That's sometimes the difference between paying rent, medicine, or other things like that. I've talked to a number of seniors who've had their power shut off. Some of them who've had to leave their home because they can't afford their energy bills. I've also talked to a lovely woman who's diabetic, and she was sent to the ER 6 times because she could not use her insulin because it couldn't be kept cold. I think additionally, related to this resolution, I also just want to uplift that we need more action related to the climate impacts of our utilities. The price is an important part of it, but all of the impacts aren't felt equally across our county. At the same time, We Energies is still building gas plants. Gas plants are more expensive and they're worse for our people and our planet. As well as with the rate increases, that's what we're paying for. We're paying for them to build new gas plants in Oak Creek and beyond. I also, as aforementioned, this impacts the county's ability to meet its climate goals when we're beholden to a corporate-owned monopoly who makes our decisions for us. I also just want to uplift that I think this rate increase will be even worsened by incoming data centers, and We Energies has no plan of how to mitigate that. There's a lot of unknowns about that. So I just want to encourage more action related to this and talk more about how it impacts everyday people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Molly Collins with the American Lung Association speaking in favor.
Good morning. My name is Molly Collins. I'm the Advocacy Director for the American Lung Association here in Wisconsin. I'm also a customer of We Energies, and I recently got a notification that my bill was going up from $108 a month to $155 a month. And you know, I'm on the budget billing plan because it helps me budget. But for a lot of folks who are of lower socioeconomic status or on a fixed income, that can be $50 a month is a pretty big deal. That might be, you know, the reason that their electricity gets shut off, and utility shutoffs are also a health issue. So we know people rely on electricity to power medicine, medication, to keep medication cold, to power machines like a CPAP or an oxygen tank. We want to make sure that folks' health is not impacted by these increased utility rates. And, you know, also, I will keep it very short, but I hope that we will, you know, look at this as a first step to thinking about how we can use Milwaukee County's purchasing power as well as our big microphone that we have to encourage We Energies to invest in electricity generation that will not harm human health. Milwaukee has a lot of poor air quality days, and increasing electricity generation from fossil fuels, methane plants, et cetera, is going to increase the number of asthma cases that we see. So we know that all of these things kind of go hand in hand. It's all a health issue that we want to make sure we're addressing and keeping people safe in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Linda Frank from Our Future MKE.
Good morning. I'm Linda Frank. I live in Shorewood. And yes, I'm speaking in favor. I might have missed that part of the form. Okay.
I'll mark it for you.
I am on the leadership team of Our Future Milwaukee. I would second all of the comments that have been made by the previous speakers. To put this in context, We Energies is an investor-owned utility that looks out for the interests of its investors. But as a regulated monopoly, they need to look out for the interests of the community. And as a community, we need to express our interests and make sure that our interests are heard. This resolution calls for the transparency that is the first step towards that. And there are some big challenges that we are facing right now. The community has an interest not only in reliable energy, but in clean energy and affordability. So we need to look out for all of those interests And it is our mission as Our Future Milwaukee to monitor and ensure the fair and full implementation of the city's and the county's climate and equity plans. And this is nicely in line with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, we have Julia Alberth from Healthy Climate Wisconsin, speaking in favor.
Hi, good morning. My name is Julia Alberth. I'm a Milwaukee County resident here today representing Healthy Climate Wisconsin. Healthy Climate Wisconsin is a statewide nonprofit of public health and healthcare professionals who come together to advocate for climate action and to work to reduce the impact of climate change on patient and community health. I'm here today to voice organizational support for the substitute resolution requesting further explanation and analysis for the We Energy's proposed rate increases. Rate increases impact utility shutoffs in communities, and We Energies often justifies these increases by new energy in part due to new energy infrastructure being built. So as health professionals, we see the impact of utility shutoffs and natural gas we see the impacts that utility shutoffs and natural gas have on our communities. It presents in our exam rooms as heat illness, worsening of existing conditions, mental health issues, malnutrition, and loss of treatment for people who rely on energy-dependent devices. We also know that natural gas pollutes our air and water. Data from the National Institute of Health shows that people living in a zip code with a fuel-fired power plant experience asthma hospitalizations that are 11% higher, respiratory infection hospitalization rates that are 15% higher, and COPD hospitalization rates that are 17% higher as compared to zip codes without a gas-fired power plant. Hyperscale data centers are leading to the build-out of new gas infrastructure projects across Milwaukee County, worsening that issue. Energy burden is the percentage of a household's gross income spent on energy costs like electricity and heating, and we know that energy burden is experienced unequally. Low-income and communities of color are disproportionately affected due to factors like living in older, inefficient housing and discriminatory housing policies. And a report by Sierra Club also found that Black and Hispanic neighborhoods experience more than 2 times the energy burden of white neighborhoods. And the racial disparities in energy burden in Milwaukee County are among the highest in the nation. So Healthy Climate Wisconsin supports this substitute resolution because we believe that it is necessary to better understand the need for the proposed rate increases, which will greatly impact the health, safety, and public interests of Milwaukee County residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who came to speak from the public. That's what we do in these committee meetings, is have the opportunity to hear from people in the community, and you each bring a different viewpoint, a different piece of education that we individually can't always have on our own. So I really appreciate it. Is there any other comments from people on our committee or any supervisors online regarding this resolution? All right, I believe we need a motion to recommend adoption as amended of the substitute resolution. Is that correct? Yes. Supervisor O'Connor?
Thank you, Chairwoman. I motion to adopt as amended.
And Madam Coordinator, is that good? Can you, I always want to say roll the call, but call the roll.
On a motion by Supervisor O'Connor that item 1, that the substitute resolution for item 1 be recommended for adoption as amended. Supervisors Roundtree Jr.
Aye.
Taylor.
Aye.
Logston.
Aye.
O'Connor.
Aye.
Madam Chairwoman.
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 noes. The motion prevails.
Thank you, everyone, for walking through that. All right, so we are now on item number 2, Madam Coordinator.
Item 2, a report from the Department of Administrative Services and Office of Strategy, Budget, and Performance, providing an update on the Investing in Justice Courthouse Complex project. This file is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Welcome to my courthouse, no. My courtroom.
First of all,
Just for today.
Chairwoman Capriolo, good morning, and Vice Chair Roundtree Jr., good morning, and to the other committee members, good morning. And Chairwoman, I appreciate the courtesy earlier on with regards to my schedule. Very much appreciate it. I will first start by saying this. I want to recognize that Supervisor Taylor is on the advisory committee for the IJCC complex project, and I thank him for his involvement on that. So our commitment and our vision and our mission, first of all, it's really wonderful to come here because this is our opportunity to update you on what's going on, making sure you're fully apprised of the process, where we're going, and I know that I have Director Hertzberg next to me, so he will be providing additional information along with a number of other presenters. But I wanted to make sure that the committee understands that it's not just about the new building. It's about the complex. It's about our ability to provide the citizens of Milwaukee County what they deserve. And that's access to a facility that's also going to provide them with just not brick and mortar, but an opportunity for better outcomes. And so we're really excited about this project. I will tell you that when we had our tours, I don't think there was ever anyone after a tour who didn't go, boy, this thing needs to be replaced. It's dangerous. It can't be retrofitted. We need to move on. And so with that as a part of this, but it's also very, very important for us to understand that it's about how we're going to treat people. What are some of the opportunities that we have to provide better outcomes for people in our community? So that's an integral part of the IJCC project. So we're focused on the public, we're focused on the staff, because we also want the staff to come into a building that's reasonably safe for them and allow the public who comes through this facility also to feel safe and supported. So we're working to design a welcoming facility that allows us to be adaptable over time. The other facility was 100 years or so. We'd like to think that this can last another 100 years, but we're going to make sure that it's flexible, that allows us the ability to be nimble, so that over the time that this facility is going to provide the access and the resources for our community for a long-term basis. We're trying to balance the needs to deal with state-mandated services, which are not always funded properly, that's another issue, as well as emphasizing stakeholder involvement. So you're going to hear the outreach that's been made to make sure we are in connection with, understand, and support what the community wants. That's an integral part of what we're doing. And I'll turn it over to Director Hertzberg.
Thank you, Chief Judge. And welcome, Chairwoman. Congratulations on your appointment. And welcome, First Vice Chair and new Supervisor Roundtree. Welcome. I'm Aaron Hertzberg, Director of Administrative Services here at Milwaukee County. As I jump into the presentation, first let me just apologize for the temperature. We've just converted on to the chiller system. If you bear with us and are patient throughout the day, the building will start to cool. This building in and of itself is about 90 years old. The public safety building that we're going to talk about replacement of is 100 years old next year. And with that, I'm going to share my screen and kind of walk you through our presentation. All right, so the Chief Judge touched on a lot of this. You've heard this before as a body at committee here and as well at other committees when we've talked about this, but we're driven by this vision and mission that we can not only replace the 100-year-old safety building, but we can also improve this complex and build towards better outcomes for our community, as the Chief Judge so eloquently stated. So let's talk about the challenge and remember why we're here. Right, so the building, as I said, will be 100 years old next year. Doesn't meet modern need, doesn't meet state Supreme Court standard. It's severely outdated, and from our perspective on the facility side, it's functionally obsolete. It's not meeting the needs that we're required to meet for a courthouse complex and create a whole bunch of dangerous incidences that can occur with the building, as well as many delays. Lots of in-custody transport that's happening in public hallways. Many of you have been on tours with us to experience and see that, and is a major, major issue. Supervisor Roundtree at some point would love to connect with you, give you a tour of the complex, and kind of talk about some of the challenge we have with this facility. Those incidences that we have in hallways create delays in the criminal justice system. Every time you see delay, think dollars. It costs us additional money, often when people are held in custody. But it's not just about the dollars. It's about the outcomes. It's about people who deserve justice. That's defendants and their families who are looking for their outcome of justice and decision and resolution of their case. It's victims and their families. It's witnesses and all those others involved in and around the criminal justice system that are feeling those delays, and we're feeling the cost impacts of those delays that we have within this building and complex. This gives you a quick reminder, again, all that traffic that's happening in the public corridors with defendants getting paraded through the hallways. Public corridors create major issues for safety instances. This does not meet state Supreme Court standards, would not be done but for us operating a 100-year-old building. It's very difficult to convert the building, to figure out how to add private hallways in here. Again, just a major issue that cannot be cost effectively addressed within the existing infrastructure. Lots of deferred maintenance in the building. Many of you have gone on the tour. You saw the roof of the sheriff's gym. That frankly needs to be replaced now. We're holding off on doing it in the hopes that we'll be able to tear the building down and build a new building. There's all sorts of incidences like that throughout the building. More than $300 million in deferred maintenance. Capital budget item requests that we're not going to submit because we see the big picture as replacement of the building, not fixing the existing building. Even if we decided we wanted to fix the building in its current condition, to proceed with this $300 million or likely more than that to replace it, we're still not addressing the major infrastructure of the building. There's over 10 floors of former jail space that are underutilized. We cannot cost effectively retrofit them. Speaking of heating and cooling systems, it's all on the same heating and cooling system. So we're heating those spaces in the winter. We're losing air. It's over 60,000 square feet of unutilizable space. And again, cannot be made compliant. So with that, I'm going to invite up Katoya Roberts, the director of the CJC. We're going to work on this one. And just
Good morning, everyone. My name is Katoya Roberts, and I am the executive director of the Milwaukee Community Justice Council. So for us, when we're thinking about revisioning and what it looks like, one of the really big portions in that revision is making sure that we're protecting taxpayers from continuing ban fixes. So in our old current building, there's lots of money, over $300,000, I think, that goes into maintenance to keep this current building alive. So it's important that we stop doing the Band-Aids and actually move forward with our new building, addressing significant safety and constitutional concerns, and ensure safe and efficient justice. So for us, when we look at this, the designing for our systems outcome, one of the big pieces is making sure that we have problem-solving courts, which are like our specialty courts, respite spaces, improved visitor experience, and wayfinding. Three-way separation efficiency, so that folks aren't passing each other within the court system, so that and people are able to have privacy when moving through. Space for supporting services, attorney-client meetings, efficient courtrooms and configurations, and process improvement for court scheduling. And then back to our problem-solving courts, which is a big piece of what is the work that the Community Justice Council is working on. So aims to improve justice system outcomes, not simply construct courtrooms, but the problem-solving courts are an essential part of the mission of the work and the design that we do. Why dedicated problem-solving court floor? It improves participants' experience, dignity, supports collaboration across justice partners, reinforces continually accountability and treatment access, and it creates flexibility for evolving court models. What is the Community Justice Council? Role is the CJC we're leading the justice and policy program work. We're uniquely positioned to help define problem-solving courts and the programs. We inform operational service delivery needs, and we help shape long-term strategy for problem-solving courts in Milwaukee County.
Awesome. Thanks, Katoya. Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Ashley Adsit, Director of Project and Performance Management within the Office of Strategy, Budget, and Performance. So we talked a little bit about what the challenge is and really how we're working to make improvements to our justice system and the way in which justice is delivered here in Milwaukee County through this project. I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure and the timeline that we're using to advance this work. And we'll show a timeline slide here shortly too. So spoiler alert, this will take multiple years to get to the end result. But centrally, our project management office is supporting this work, and there are 4 work groups that are leading that day-to-day, week-to-week work with our consulting teams, with our internal, external stakeholders, and moving forward with kind of our funding strategy and plan and advocacy efforts, in addition to the justice policy and program work that you just heard about from Katoya. And through the kind of organization of this work, we use an advisory council to really form the recommendations for how we move forward and make decisions. That advisory council is chaired by the chief judge. We have representation from all of the offices that are impacted by this project. So considering the district attorney's office and court staff, sheriff's office, clerk of courts, a number of stakeholders, and of course, Supervisor Taylor supporting as well to represent the board, all really helpful to ensure that we have robust conversations as we bring some of these incremental decisions forward and talk about strategy and what's important to us as Milwaukee County to move this work forward. So the Advisory Council, among other stakeholders, created project goals when we reinvigorated this work a few years ago. And here you just see them kind of ranked in terms of priority among the Advisory Council members and other representatives, but all of these goals are woven throughout the decisions and the progress that is being made on this project. And then when it comes to making decisions, we're really working with this Venn diagram of landing in the middle of what is best practice, what's publicly approvable, and really what's financially feasible as we move forward and have to make some difficult decisions about scope and detail. So this is our long-term project timeline. We are really kind of midway, maybe a little bit past the midway point for design, but there's so much that goes into that. And we'll talk a little bit more about what those phases look like and everything that helps us move from where we were from intake into design, process improvement, through getting prepared for demolition and relocating departments along the way so that we can then begin construction and moving back in. So when we talk about our design phase, multiple steps here, and we're working with a number of consultants to ensure that we are using best practice and templates and using lessons learned from other jurisdictions as they've gone through this process. So right now we're really on the tail end. We're wrapping up conceptual design. Before conceptual design, our consultants took us through programming and master planning. Programming was really interviews with every single office, department, unit within Milwaukee County to understand how much space do you need to do your work and to do it well. Master planning put in perspective for us, what does it look like to do this work now with the historic courthouse and public safety building, and then long-term beyond the life of this, the construction component of this project. So we're getting ready to move from conceptual design, like I said, into schematic design. Conceptual design, you think about Legos stacking up on each other. How much space do we need? We were not necessarily worried yet about the details of where desks and workstations are located. That happens next in schematic design. So right now, we're preparing for enabling work. In the past, we had called this swing space, where we are really preparing to move all of our court functions, so criminal, civil, and family court, into the historic courthouse here in preparation to demo. A lot of priorities when that plan was being made with our design and construction group, with our consultant team. We want to make sure that we're minimizing disruption, minimizing costs, and making decisions now based on where departments will be housed long term, and then making sure we're maximizing the space in the historic courthouse. So in order to move all of those court functions in, we are moving some of our administrative functions out of the historic courthouse, out of the complex. And that's kind of what our timeline here outlines for us. That includes like human resources, corporation counsel, and some other administrative teams. We've been preparing for that offsite, some of those offsite moves. Our economic development team is looking at proceeding with lease agreements in the next month or so to enable us to continue on our timeline, our path to begin to move those groups out, renovate their space, and then move court functions in so that we can prepare to demolish the public safety building, which I think everybody will be excited about when we get to that moment. So we're looking towards 2028 as fully vacating the public safety building so that we can begin those next steps. And then this is my last slide here, just wanting to share kind of the milestones that we've been working towards. So our consulting group will bring to us frequently kind of the next set of deliverables, and then we turn around to present that information with the advisory council, with boards and committees like yourselves, and move through the process. So right now, we're in quarter 2, anticipating board reports continuing to be monthly for you all. We did want to take the opportunity today to really kind of like level set, start from the beginning in terms of this project. What are the challenges? What is our process for moving forward? What are we prioritizing so that you all feel prepared as we move forward with more information about enabling funding and our final conceptual design. Okay, which we're going to move into.
Thank you, Director Assett. All right, let's talk a little bit about conceptual design and some of the pictures, right? We've seen some renderings from the 75% conceptual design. These are our 100% conceptual design. We've recently gotten these from the consultants, and so wanted to bring them forth and share them with you. This gives you a little sense of the site plan. Again, that building in orange is where our public safety building currently sits. That's the 100-year-old building that we want to tear down and replace with our new courthouse that will serve all of our criminal courts in that new building. From the 75% to this new rendering, you're starting to see a little bit better definition around a public plaza entry on the north side of the building there, confirming from the south side that there will be access for people parking in MacArthur Square parking garage to be able to access the new building. I'll show you some internal renderings, so think about that sort of protrusion off the west side of the building. You'll see some interior shots that help you understand how people come into the building here in a few slides. This is sort of the building program and how things stack up. I won't go through the details here, but kind of hit the high notes. The first floor is where we'll have all jury management coming into the complex. So again, instead of jury management coming into the historic courthouse, this building, we're going to push all jury management into the new building. Most jurors that come are for criminal trials, and so they will be in that same building. Better accessibility. Those that are on civil trials, there is less jury interaction, but those folks will then be the ones who are moving through the Skyway system to the historic courthouse. First floor also has a ceremonial courtroom and traffic court. Those are high-frequency uses, expanded spaces for those purposes. Second floor is for the sheriff offices. There's also secure transport that occurs for in custody. The third floor is another high traffic floor. That's the connection in the new building that will connect across to the first floor, the historic courthouse. And you'll still have 4 courtrooms on that, along with some of the supportive services with each of those court functions. The fourth floor is the district attorney. The fifth floor is our problem-solving court floor. That's a dedicated floor for support services and problem-solving court functions. Floors 6 through 9 are what we call our standard court floors. The blue boxes represent the courtrooms. In the middle there in red, that's the secure transport. So folks will come across the second floor on secure transport, hidden from the sheriff's office areas. They'll come up through elevators to the individual floors where their court proceedings are, or down if it's on the first floor. And then there'll be bullpens or holding areas between courtrooms, again, preventing in-custodies from being transported in public hallways, which create a lot of our timing challenges, a lot of our security challenges in today's building. This gives you another updated look, looking north, from the north, looking south and east. A little better rendering than we saw in the 75% version. You can see the 9th Street tunnel there and that Skyway system replaced with a connection over to the CJF and over to the historic courthouse. You could get a good look there. All that glass kind of in the middle is I don't know if my cursor works. It does. That's kind of the primary entrance if folks are getting dropped off to the building from the outside or are leaving the complex. Nice little plaza area that complements the plaza area across the street at the criminal justice facility today. Whoop, sorry, wrong direction. This gives you a shot looking from what is currently the roof of the public museum, kind of across, gives you some context of how the building stacks up with the historic courthouse. These are some of those interior shots that I was talking about before. On the upper left there, that's that entrance, right? So if you go into the entrance, that glass box I was just showing, that protrusion off the west side of the building, that's that sort of, you know, you're kind of coming in that main entrance and turning left to go through security. You can sort of see security screening back in this direction in that upper left picture. I will highlight on the wall there, you see that what looks like a mural. It's actually carving from the historic public safety building today. There are several of these that we'd like to repurpose in the new building, trying to bring some of that historic character into the newly revitalized space. All the way down at the end of that hallway, you see some glass and some stuff on the right there. Those are elevators, stairs going down to MacArthur Square for those that are taking parking in the MacArthur Square parking garage. On the right side, the larger image, that's after you go through security screening, sort of the main entry area. You can see on the left there that sort of cross-cutting line. That's the escalator system to go up to the third floor, which is that, again, that high traffic floor connecting across. In the far distance on the left is where people would go to traffic court or the ceremonial courtroom. And to the immediate left out of the picture is where jury management would be. And then you can see a rendering on the left side, a lower left side of the fifth floor public corridor. That's that problem-solving court floor. Some nice shots back looking over MacArthur Square to the historic courthouse. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Erin Perkins to talk about stakeholder engagement.
All right, good morning. My name is Erin Perkins. I'm a project manager with the Office of Strategy, Budget, and Performance. And good morning, Madam Chair, and good morning to the committee. So just to give you an overview of stakeholder engagement that we've had over the last couple years of the IJCC project. So earlier you saw a decision matrix. So that included a public approval, fiscal viability, as well as best practices. So we want to make sure that when we're making decisions around the design of the building, that public approval and input is right front and center with financial considerations as well as best practice. The community engagement framework that we use is from the county's Office of Equity. In particular, we're focused on informing the public about what's happening with this project and consulting with the public so that their input is integrated into the project. Last year, there was a letter that was submitted to the state legislature in support of the project, and it had a wide variety of stakeholders that signed on to it. Over 170 people did. That included people that were public safety representatives, nonprofits, other municipalities within Milwaukee County. So a wide, broad range of support that we had behind the IJCC project that signed on to that letter. We've done a number of presentations and roadshows going out and telling people about the project through community listening sessions. We found we get better engagement by reaching out directly to organizations and meeting with stakeholder groups that they have. So we've continued to do presentations in the form of roadshows. We've done quite a bit around media outreach. If you go to the IJCC webpage, there's actually at the bottom of the page a list of all the different articles that we've had come out related to this project. We've developed a number of outreach materials, both in English and in Spanish, which are also available on our website.
Hold on one second. We have a
Sure.
phone ringing. It's definitely somewhere over here. It's gone now.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry
It's
for
okay.
the interruption.
So outreach materials. So we've had a number of different outreach materials that have been developed, like fact sheets that we've shared with the public, and we've been translating those into Spanish as well. There's a public email handle that's available on our website. There's also a video tour that's available in English and Spanish on our website. That's because we can't bring everybody through the safety building, but we still want people to be able to see it and get a sense of what the building is like. So that's also on the IJCC website. There was a courthouse survey. We had a number of flyers that were posted throughout the courthouse complex with a QR code so that people could tell us a little bit about what their experience is like within the courthouse complex. And then we also had some youth apprenticeships that were done through the design and construction work group. So this is a partnership with AECOM, who's our design consultant, as well as Milwaukee Public Schools, for youth that are interested in careers in design and construction. This is just reiterating some of the different activities that we had. You heard that we've done a number of tours. We did 22 tours through the courthouse complex. We do plan to do more of those because seeing is believing when it comes to this project, and oftentimes people don't even really know what the safety building is. And when we talk about the degradation of the facility, you got to really see it and smell it and like experience it for yourself to know just what we mean when we say that this building is obsolete. So we've had 22 tours go through, over 200 people from internal stakeholder groups as well as community groups come through and do tours of the courthouse complex. And definitely to reiterate Director Hertzberg's comment, if you're interested in all in coming through that, or if you know groups that would be interested in coming through and being a part of that, please do let us know and we can work to coordinate those. We've done a number of about 9 community presentations. We had a series of community listening sessions, and we've continued to do those road shows to share information about the project. Design and construction in particular has done a lot of meetings. We didn't even bother to count them and put them on the slide because they've just been meeting with such a wide variety of stakeholders, both internally and externally, just to get input from so many different people because there's so many stakeholder groups that intersect with this project. So they've been having meetings and doing surveys and workshops with people to be able to figure out the design of the building. Justice policy and programs, we've been working with the National Center for Courts, or National Center for State Courts, so that they can help us identify some values that can drive the project, and we've also had them engaged for doing some strategic planning. They were here earlier this month doing some different meetings with different stakeholder groups just to get a sense of what changes we need to make around policy and practices, because it's not just about the building, but it's also about how our processes are affected by the building. So trying to think about that policy aspect as well as we're thinking about the redesign of the facility. And then lastly, we have to have some kind of game plan in place and communicate with people as we're talking about the transition into the new facility. So we've been calling, instead of calling it the swing phase, we've been now calling it the enabling phase. So that's where we move people out of the safety building and have these sort of transitional situations for people where they're either in the historic courthouse or some of them are planning to be offsite in lease space, but we need to coordinate what that looks like and communicate with all of our stakeholders so they know what's happening. So we're currently working with design and construction on what that communication plan needs to look like so that people are prepared to navigate those moves. With that, I will turn things over to Jeremy for funding and finance.
Good morning, Chair, Supervisors. I'm Jeremy Lucas, Policy Director in Milwaukee County and the Funding and Finance Workstream Lead for the Investing in Justice project. A quick slide here on the budget. There's about $38.6 million that's been authorized for this project thus far. We're about 11 in. You may have gotten the notices that we've had our geotechnical consultant in and around the courthouse doing borings. These are kind of the pre-construction work to ensure that, the soil can support our new building and that we don't have any surprises. But, we're turning the page toward a lot of activity as we, as Director Hertzberg mentioned regarding, starting to move people around, prep spaces, send staff off-site, sign leases, things like that to really kind of keep us on track and hopefully keep us ahead in the race against time and inflation as we work getting this project done. Just wanted to remind this group that there was an adopted Amendment 5 for the 2026 budget asking for some specific analysis regarding this project, how it relates to bonding capacity, capital projects, backlogs, things of those nature. The Finance Committee will be seeing that first report this month, file 26-445. The Office of the Comptroller was kind enough to assist us and bring forward a report kind of explaining the relationship between bonding, debt, and the property tax levy. So hopefully that'll start our first foray into a discussion on all of the items requested by the board to make sure that you have what you need to make big decisions. And, we will be asking this body to make some big decisions this year related to this project. I would also like to remind everyone that we did successfully get funding from the state of Wisconsin through the Expressway Patrol funding to help fund this project, provide us with the resources where we were spending local tax levy to do state mandated services. Now they are paying for some of the state mandated services they have asked us to do. So it seems like a long time ago, but it's important. We'll bring forward the value of that as we start these more in-depth discussions about the fiscal impacts. And so that's where we are. You know, a lot of departments are working on their capital requests right now. We are discussing how to advance the full request, how many dollars we need to move us from out of the conceptual design, which, you know, we are complete with, and through the rest of the phases. So the cost of new construction and the enabling renovations, that's really kind of like where we see the time frame as being important. You cannot move forward with removing the building until you get everyone out and make sure that they can continue to do their state mandated functions in the historic courthouse. So, you know, we're currently meeting with stakeholders discussing how we want to package up these costs. Do we want to do the complex in its entirety, kind of just grab all the pieces together that we know we're going to see, including some master plan pieces, and put that in one big bucket? How much of those do we want to include, and you know, how that timing hits with some of the planned capital investments that are already, you know, in process or need to happen. You know, chillers, for example, or HVACs, you know, those things are on a timeline, right, already. And so, you know, how do we best align the new building with some of the things that we know will show up in the future? And so that concludes the presentation, and we're open to any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. This is obviously a huge project, and it's going to be in front of us for the next, 8 years until we cut the ribbon on the new facility, I would guess. Is that 8 years away or more than that?
We certainly hope so. We certainly hope so.
Does anyone on the committee have any questions? Yes. Supervisor Roundtree Jr.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you all for your presentation. First, I just have a comment before I have my question. My comment was thank you all for doing this work, because as someone, as I was going over this yesterday, it took me back to 2022 when I was sitting in the courthouse and I had to sit across from my brother's murderer like multiple times, and that was a very difficult moment. And I remember thinking, like, why is this like this? So first of all, I want to commend you on doing that work, and also thank you for upgrading a 100-year-old building in Milwaukee, where our climate has continuously changed and gotten deeper. And this is my second meeting, and I'm in here like, okay, I need to not sweat. So thank you for that work. But just one of my questions. Are there any barriers to moving this project forward at not an expedited timeline, but more so like on a timeline that would be like more in line with where you want us to like literally be? Like, let's say, like the chairwoman said, in 8 years, can we do it in 7.5?
Yeah, Chair, supervisors, we roughly talk about timelines, right? You know, and I think our goal is that by, you know, if everything stays on the path that we've kind of laid before you, we talk about these buckets of work that we're undertaking. We hope that by 2032, folks are moved into the new building, right? With that, there is some back retrofitting that occurs in this complex. You know, part of that is a little bit what Director Lucas was talking about. Is we've asked our consultants to give us a plan not only to replace the public safety building and what needs to happen. There's a bunch of things that need to happen in terms of utility systems, in terms of where people sit, what needs to be backfilled here, all that sort of stuff that has to happen with the new building. We've also asked them for a master plan for the complex. What should we be thinking about for the next 20 years of the courthouse complex, right? In some of our prior meetings, we've talked about potentially a new entryway onto the front of the courthouse, the front being the proposed original historic front of the courthouse looking out on MacArthur Square, and how that could add some functionality and improve workflow for our folks coming in and out of the building. Things like that, maybe we decide it's part of this project, or maybe that's something that happens after 2032, right? And so we hope on this timeline we will deliver a new building that folks move into. in 2032. It's really up to us as a county and as a community to decide how long do we want that timeline of work to be, right? The other big thing that Director Lucas was kind of talking about is we know we have chillers in this system that are going to have to get replaced. Some of that is going to be on a schedule closely related to or even during the time period of before 2032 when we have folks moved into this new building, right? My question to the board, and one thing I think would be great for us to talk about is, do we just roll that all into one bucket and say, look, let's put in all our capital requests into this single project. Maybe it increases the price tag initially, but if we can roll that into a contract with one vendor, there's probably some cost savings associated with it. Or do we want to say, no, let's try to keep the project budget as low as possible for this particular project, knowing that facilities will have to come in and ask for separate requests as we need them in the complex, right? There will probably be some emergency repairs that need to occur. Those things always kind of come and sneak up on us, even to the best of our ability to prevent that. But what can we anticipate, and is it worth rolling that into this project budget and saying, let's do it all collectively together, right? So depending on how we make those decisions, impacts the timeline. So ideally, in 6 years, we're in the new building. How long we go thereafter as part of this project budget remains an open conversation for us to have over the course of the summer. Supervisor Roundtree, you asked the question about what barriers exist in the timeline. We think we're consolidating and pushing this as quickly as possible. Part of it is about hitting the right construction seasons at the right time as well. We think we've laid that out really well. So Director Adsett said it. I believe Director Lucas mentioned it as well. We are looking at moving some leases forward that will move some people off-site in anticipation of all this happening. So we're trying to keep that expedited. Ultimately, the big barrier, if you want to call it that is the conversation we will all have about the funding commitment that's necessary to make this whole thing happen. This will be the largest project in the history of Milwaukee County from a financial perspective. We are still honing in on exactly what that number is. We want to be clear and transparent with you when we feel like we have all the homework done to share with you what that number is. There were some earlier estimates that from 2018 that were inflation adjusted that had it in the ballpark of $500 million. I've been clear with the body, it's going to be more than that. We're trying to figure out how much more than that, but it will be more than that. So that conversation will come together later this year, right? We'll want to talk with you all about whether that happens at a special session, whether that happens as part of the budget process. We want to make sure you have that number, you have information about why it's that number, all worked out so we can have a big community conversation about the right way to make the commitment. Director Lucas has mentioned it in previous meetings. We did get a allocation of highway patrol funds from the state that free up some money that we can use for this. We're just having a conversation this morning about how the capital stack all works out. We want to bring you all that information so you understand not just how much this thing is going to cost, but what we're proposing in terms of the sources of revenue that we're utilizing to pay this off, right? We know there's going to be an impact potentially on taxpayers if we do additional bonding to take on a project like this. What's the right threshold for that? How much of those highway patrol funds can we commit to this project to help mitigate that impact on taxpayers? That's the barrier, right? I don't think it's a timeline issue. It's about trying to figure out what the right way to fund the project and keep us on that timeline to deliver that building in 2032. And apologies for your loss on your brother.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. One more, and then I'm done. And thank you so much for that thorough report. And you actually answered one of my questions in that. So I'm gonna move past that budget question. And then I just have an idea. I want to know, like, what was the process for choosing construction companies and any other contractor that would work on this project?
Yeah, great question. I don't, Sean's not in the room, is he? Our facilities director was here earlier, but unfortunately had to leave after the environmental issue question. So we go through a competitive bidding process that's publicly noticed. There was wide interest in that competitive bidding process for a project of this scale. We had consultants calling us before we were ready. We said, stay tuned. We're going to get our RFP out on the street. So there was a competitive request for proposals that was put out, multiple rounds of evaluation, and ultimately, Jeremy, you were part of that selection process, I believe. Ultimately, they brought in a couple of firms to have intense meetings about who they thought would build the best project team to deliver the project. And so we have a team made up on the construction side of Gilbane and Cullen that have come together to collaborate on this project. That firm has been selected. We've got a whole host of consultants in and around the outside of that, including one right now that's vetting the cost estimating that Gilbane Cullen has prepared for the project, ultimately to try to get us the best result.
Thank you. I have no more questions.
Anyone else have any questions on the committee? Yes, Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned that the information on bonding limitations will be coming before Finance. Is that on this coming Thursday? I'm looking at it right now, and I don't see it.
Chair, it's number 7. Chair, Supervisor, I want to apologize. That report is coming from the Comptroller's office. I don't have the file number in front of me.
It's 25,
but it's item 7.
So it's rolled into the entire oversight report. Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, so just to clarify, there's a report we promised and collaborated with the Comptroller's office. They've submitted, it's item 7 on Finance Committee agenda, that will give an overview on how bonding works, right? We want you to fully understand and make sure new supervisors who've been around for a while have refresher and reminders. If we're going to ask for a fair amount of bonding for this project, let's make sure we all are on the same level playing field of understanding how it works. So Pamela Bryant, the Capital Projects Director, I believe is her title, submitted the report. She will be presenting that at Finance Committee. I believe the Finance Chair has also requested for this item to be dual referred. So I believe we're also going to give this presentation there as well to make sure that we have both the building and programming side of things along with the financial conversation. I'll say the report, that item 7 report from the Comptroller's office, is that base foundation of understanding the bonding. In the June cycle, we're going to come and back to the finance and talk to you about project delivery. How do we deliver big capital projects? Where are we at with our log of capital projects? What would it look like to take on a big project like that? How does it impact our team's ability to continue to deliver the projects that are in your parks, in your districts, and beyond throughout the rest of the complex? So you have a full understanding of our architecture and engineering process and how all that works. That then sets up another conversation in July to say, how do those pieces of the puzzle come together? That's where I think we'll be coming forward to you and saying, this is our recommendation about how to fund a project like this. This is how it fits into our capacity. You'll have the bonding, you'll have our current load, and then we'll bring those two things together to talk to you about what the big project is in the July cycle. And then sometime after that, we would be asking for the actual dollars. This is a big conversation. It's important. We spend a lot of time. It's important we educate not just all of you, but the community at large on how this is all going to work and how we're going to make sure we deliver the best product for the community at the lowest possible cost.
Thank you. See you Thursday.
Sounds good.
Supervisor Taylor, you wanted to add some
Thank you, Madam
thoughts?
Chair. Yeah, so these are the conversations that we have at the advisory council meetings on Fridays, once a month, of how to really lay all this out. As Director Hertzberg said, it's like bonding 101. Some of us are brand new and some of us have been here longer, but I think it's extremely important to lay out exactly how this is going to happen, what it's going to do. There's going to be a lot of conversations, one of them is a capital improvement project holiday, where we would maybe take off an entire year of capital improvements. That's all of our parks project and everything else. Those decisions, that's a board decision. I'm not saying I stand one way or the other, but these are the conversations that do need to take place. I did request that this item's on finance. I'm not sure if it will be or not. I think, at some point, the Finance Committee really needs to know exactly what's going on. Now, granted, the other 5 members that are not on this committee that are on finance, they can obviously tune in, watch this meeting if they want, but I think, at some point, this should be on that agenda. And then also, this 170 plus stakeholders, can we get that letter, that list sent to us? Because I think we not only need to talk about the building itself, which is the financial impact, but what happens inside. And I've said this in some of our Friday meetings, we're not hearing, I think some of my colleagues are not hearing enough of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chair, Supervisors, great feedback. Thank you for that. We will certainly share a copy of that letter. The last time we sort of rallied the troops, if you will, to kind of have this big conversation was around our effort to advocate to the state for their support of the project. We were very successful in that effort, right? Now that we're coming back to have the community conversation, we've got some resources from the state. We've got to figure out the county side of it. We absolutely need to continue to lean into that. We'll share that letter with you. Recognize it's going to be a little bit out of context, right? But we certainly are working in the background. I believe Project Manager Perkins mentioned it, that she's working closely with those stakeholder groups along with others on the project committee. And we will do our best to bring that forward to you over the course of the next several meetings to make sure that that voice is heard, both in sharing the letter that was previously prepared and any other additional advocacy between now and the eventual date. And again, we want to continue to offer that if you yourself are looking for information, if your constituents are looking for additional information, if you have any groups in your communities that are looking for additional information about the project, we are happy to share. We have a dedicated website. We want to keep it up to date. We want to make sure people have the information necessary to make this important decision and hopefully help us move forward with building the project.
So, because that would be my point. I mean, this effort worked in Madison. Well, now it's not Madison. It's in this building. There's 18 of us. So that same amount of pressure campaign, or whatever you want to call it, it needs to occur because not everybody, is going to buy into this. I mean, I talked to some of my colleagues, and it's like I said, the largest, the most expensive project we've ever done. There's a lot of needs in this county, so you're going to be weighing that versus what someone has in their district. I mean, we're watching what Sheridan Park Bluffs are caving in, and that's $20 million, right? We don't have $20 million to do that. Okay, now if we don't do a safety building, well, maybe we do. But those are the issues that we're up against. So I really think we need to, hear from the community of what's going to take place in that building. The example that you give, we hear that. The Judge Ashley hears that all the time. Chief Judge does. Victims seeing, someone, walking, the defendants walking past, witnesses, hung juries tossed out. I mean, terrible things, or cases tossed out. So, all right, thank you.
Supervisor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair. I have a follow-up question and comment to that. So actually, when we were talking about that stakeholder engagement letter in the 170 plus organizations, I pulled it up because I will just be candid that does impact my decision. Like, I want to see who else is, at the table on this. And there's a fair amount of municipalities. There are some noticeable absences, that raise some questions for me, I guess. So are we continuing to kind of add to that list of stakeholders? Also, is there any opportunity, are we allowed as a governmental, agency, organization to fundraise from them? Are any of these 170 stakeholders, financially in the game? Thanks.
I'll answer the first part of the question first. Absolutely, we're there with you. I do want to highlight Katoya Roberts, who's part of the presentation team today. Is not a county employee, right? She runs the Community Justice Council, which is a convening of players in and around the criminal justice system as a nonprofit organization that brings those groups together to talk about how to improve the criminal justice system. We work closely with them throughout the project. Katoya is very helpful in thinking about how do we deliver justice best within our systems. And we collaborate with them in thinking about that stakeholder engagement. She was kind enough to invite Claire Miller and myself to previously present to the CJC. We've had several conversations with the CJC and their executive council to continue to build that advocacy. And I think we've got to continue our work to make sure that voice is heard beyond the council and in this room as well, and with the other supervisors. We'll certainly work towards that. Do you want to jump in on the financial side of that?
Yeah, certainly, Chair, supervisors. We primarily engage that group as kind of like one voice headed toward Madison during the biennial budget. I don't believe we've had any conversations with them specifically about funding individual components of the project or any other parts like that. So that remains to be seen. But generally, each of those stakeholders had a different impact from our ability to improve operations in the building. Most of the municipalities recognize that our ability to move through cases quicker relieves congestion in the CJF, and that allows them to keep people out of their own local municipal jails during weekends or high traffic times, or many of the different stakeholders. We had different union groups, of course. We have many people are aware of the climate impacts of running that old building and how it affects our energy, certainly public safety, staffing, all of these different components. So I would say there was never a discussion with them individually about helping to fund the project, but going with us, holding hands as a joint representation to the state legislature to say that this is an important project, and we were looking for some support from the state for the mandated services.
Supervisor Logsdon.
Thank you, Chairwoman. It was brought up at one of our past meetings on this subject that with this large undertaking, there's going to be a lot of constituent and supervisors' concerns of what we're going to be doing in the process. And you mentioned then that you would put it on a website. I'm wondering if it would be a good suggestion maybe to use our dashboard that we're starting to use at Milwaukee County and have that up there. So if we want to go in there and to check the status, where you're at, whatever, because this is going to be quite an interesting procedure to follow. Just a thought. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. We do have that website, and maybe there's a way we can incorporate a progress dashboard on that. Thank you. Appreciate the thought.
Anyone else with a question? All right, I do have a couple questions. In my 2 years on the board, I've heard two stories told over and over again. Past administrations deferred maintenance, which left us with a mess, and the state underfunds us. So obviously we made a little bit of progress with the state funding last year, and I know we'll continue to advocate to get more money back into Milwaukee County. The deferred maintenance from past administrations, do we have any kind of safety net for future administrations so that they can't go back and say, yeah, we're going to pass on this and we're going to, punt the football 50 years down the line and let another administration deal with it? Is there anything that we can do financially? Can we have a trust? Is there anything we can do to make sure that maintenance on this new building is there?
Yeah, Chair, Supervisors, it's a really good question, and it's a little bit of a complicated one, and I think fits into that bonding conversation we're going to have on Thursday at Finance. And what you're going to hear and see in that report is that Milwaukee County has done a pretty good job of keeping in a contained valve on how much it's spending on its capital program. I think the counterpoint to that is that it has not given us enough resources to invest in our facilities in the long term. And so when we think about deferred maintenance, that's very often what we're talking about, right? The fact that our capital program every given year funds about $50 million. The number of capital requests that come in any given year is about $150 million, roughly speaking. And compounded over multiple years, it means we're really only funding emergency projects. We're really underfunding things once they get so bad. And so that's often what our deferred maintenance is. It's not out of, sort of this neglect of care of facilities. It's about lack of investment. And so the best way to set up future boards for success is to call the question, to say, you know what, we're going to make this giant investment in this facility. This is not only going to be the largest project in the history of Milwaukee County, it is the largest project in our deferred maintenance numbers. When you hear that over $1 billion in deferred maintenance, a good portion of that is this facility that we're talking about today. And so the best way to protect about it is to change that strategy and to say, you know what, we can't keep kicking the can down the road. We can't keep waiting for things to fail before we invest in them. The public safety building arguably already is failing. We're not going to let it fail further. We're not going to let catastrophe happen in that building. We're going to invest now. We know that it's going to require a resource allocation. We know that that's going to be challenging for us. We know we're putting the work in to do it the right way. This body has already invested in making sure we have the planning resources to do it. But we're going to knock this thing off the bucket list of items in both our deferred program and help to address in the future that this isn't a major issue. We had a meeting last week with the comptroller's office talking about the report that will happen on Thursday. And Ms. Bryant mentioned in that meeting when she came to the county in the mid-90s, she was told, we're not going to invest in the safety building anymore because we're going to be replacing it soon. Here we are 30 years later. Supervisor Taylor can show you his text messages and conversations with the county executive when he was first elected about what the costs were for this building. The more we wait, the worse the conditions are, the more uncomfortable it is, the more compounding consequence or negative externalities we have because of the building, and the more we add to deferred maintenance, and the higher the cost for whoever fills these seats someday after us if we don't address it.
My other question is the beautiful renderings show trees and greenery. The fountain, I think, that's on the south side is no longer there. Is that really going to happen? And I noticed the lack of anything pretty in our landscaping now. So will there be a commitment to that with the new building and including the historic courthouse as well? Like we walk in and the planters are all just dirt. And is there any way to? I think Supervisor O'Connor and I would go out and plant the flowers ourselves if someone will water them.
I laugh a little bit about that one. Supervisor O'Connor, I think, reached out to us, and we've done a little bit better job planting the front planters on 10th Street. I think we're waiting to make sure we have consistent temperatures that are above freezing, but hopefully we'll be back on that program here going forward. We've got to be a little patient with Wisconsin weather. But I don't believe there's any intention of changing the fountain on the south side of the courthouse in Claus Plaza as part of this project. Apologies if it didn't show up in the rendering. I have to go back and look at that. The bulk of that greenery and beautiful space is MacArthur Square, right? And the MacArthur Square parking garage and the park that's supposed to be on top of it. That's owned and operated by the city of Milwaukee. We view them as our partner in this. We've been having lots of conversations with them about the future of MacArthur Square. They've come out with a beautiful vision of it in their Downtown 2040 plan. We're talking to them about this project. We're talking to them about the public museum site. Later this summer, we'll have an RFP out on the public museum site. Part of the strategy of that request for proposals will look at development opportunities for that site that provide better access and visibility to it to kind of enhance usage of that facility. So we're having lots of conversations with the city of Milwaukee. We'd love to see that space revitalized. We think the context for that is going to be ripe when we've got the public museum site opportunity, when we've got this building going on. And so we want to work closely with them to figure out the beautification there. It's something that came back up in a lot of our surveying when we talk to supervisors, when we talk to employees, when we talk to visitors of the complex, is looking for respite space, both in the building and the aesthetics of the building, but also outside. There's some of us have been around long enough to remember when some of those spaces were a little bit more vibrant and utilized in the context of the courthouse, and hopefully we'll get back to that with a big project like this.
Thank you very much for sitting here and answering all our questions, for the time you took today. Were there any other questions? Anyone online? Supervisor Taylor?
So regarding the plantings and that, no, I got the potholes filled. Do you notice that? You guys, the cars that would get swallowed? Now, if you would have saw my email to Alderman Bauman, you would have laughed.
Thank you for that.
The Chief Judge saw it, and so did the county executive. It's very interesting.
I'll say thank you for that. I think there were a number of people who reached out to the city of Milwaukee, and maybe it was that email to Bauman that got it over the hump, because we seem to be waiting quite a while for it to happen.
Yeah, literally emailed him. He responded right back.
Great.
Off his cell phone or whatever to the email, and then it was like the next day or maybe the Monday, whatever it was, with a day or two it was done. But I basically said, well, we were forced to help pay for. I call it Miller Park. We were forced to help pay for it, so maybe they could use some of that pothole money.
There you go.
Yeah, it was a little side, but also, I think the MacArthur Square or that park. Maybe, but by what we're doing, it could help move up, and with the museum, move up to 2040, because that's a long time from now. And I also know that there was some questions by at least one of my colleagues regarding that eastern entrance. You know, that's not, like, that is probably a separate project, most likely, with maybe when McGovern.
The glass.
Yeah, the glass.
Yeah, we certainly can talk that out, right? And I think that's something that collectively, between the administration and the board, let's try to figure out what the best answer is. There could be advantages in going both directions, and I want to stay open to both ideas
Yeah,
at
I
this
think
point.
that's where options of, like you mentioned, the chillers and all the HVAC throughout this building and others that need to be done. I think presenting it to the board, you know, saying, well, here's the reality. You don't want to, like, say, let's build a building and then 10 years later say, now we need all this, and we could let us make that decision all at once, or we make the decision that we're kicking it down the road, but at least we're making that decision, have to live with that decision. And I also think that it's not just when you talk about previous administrations and deferred maintenance, from 2000, without naming names, 2002 to like 2011, the previous administration, which is a previous 2 administrations ago, there was a lot of capital stuff that was kicked down the road, that was not done. And you can blame that county executive, and people do, but also you had a county board that could have done it as well. They could have done it, right? But they chose not to. So,
yeah, and I'll just say, I don't know that getting in the blame game is really helpful to some extent. And there were also a lot of changes in staffing levels, right? The staffing levels were in excess of 10,000 employees at one point. Now we're sort of settled in around this 5,000 number. And so a lot of my career at Milwaukee County over the last 8 years, and some of the folks before me and others that I work with here, has been on right-sizing our footprint, right? And so we've vacated and sold over 3 million square feet of excess real estate. And that's about saying, look, if this is where we're at with county employment and facilities and making some investments, getting out of bad investments, if you want to call them back, you know, and just the 3 million that we've got out of on an annual basis saves us $9 million a year in operating costs, right? I wish we got to realize that as cash. Unfortunately, we realize that in addressing budget deficits, but those deficits that we face could be a lot worse if we weren't continuing this trajectory, right? So we've got a couple new buildings. COGS building opened up. I'm proud to report the economic development teams in the back. I'll give them a huge shout out. They officially closed on the COGS building, the old COGS building, last week. It was a huge undertaking. That's over 200,000 square feet. We're now operating a 60,000 square foot modern building, right? It's a huge cost savings for us because this body had the fortitude to step forward, to commit some of those ARPA dollars, come up with other resources to make the commitment to the new building. It's wonderful from a programming sense. The way people walk into the new COGS building is so much better than the old COGS building. And now the old building's been sold. It's off our books. We don't have to maintain it, heat it, cool it, secure it. And it's going to be converted to 67 units of affordable housing, which is a win-win-win all the way around the table.
Right. Anyone else have anything they want to say? All right. Thank you very much,
Thank you all.
gentlemen. And why don't we go ahead and call item number 4?
Item 4, from the Director, Economic Development, Department of Administrative Services, providing an informational report regarding Milwaukee County property sales. This file is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
And welcome back, Emily Straff.
Good morning and congratulations, Chair Celia Benton, Director of Economic Development and Real Estate.
Hello, Chairwoman and committee members. Emily Straff, Project Manager with Economic Development and Real Estate Services, here to present an update on Milwaukee County's property inventory year to date. So I'll just jump right into it. Oh, my computer died. Hold on. Pardon me. Okay, so we have a total of 5 active listings, 1 vacant commercial lot actively listed in West Dallas. The RFP for the 2 Cudahy lots is being reviewed on a rolling basis, with the next deadline being in July. The home on Leroy Ave did receive an offer that we are currently in negotiations with, so that will be pending soon. And the other RFP under active listings is the old medical examiner's building. While I was gone on maternity leave, we did have a total of 22 properties that went into judgment. Kudos to my team for their help during my absence and keeping the ball rolling on the process to get these ready to sell. And then of the 22 properties, 3 have already been sold back to the prior owners who were able to come up with the funds to pay the back taxes, interest, penalties, and administrative costs. So those situations are win-win for the county and the homeowner and the city because we get our taxes paid, the homeowner gets to stay in their home, and the city has someone living there to care for the home. For the rest of the properties, we are waiting for appraisals, cleanouts, and occupants to vacate. Once that is done, we will have those listed for sale with a preference for owner-occupants and first-time home buyers to be the purchasers. We have closed on 3 properties so far this year. The home in St. Francis was sold to a homeowner and first-time home buyer, and the commercial lot in Brown Deer was sold to a developer that plans to build their office building at that site. And for pending closings, I was informed that COGS has been sold, so I'll turn it over to Director Benton to provide an update on that.
Well, Director Hertzberg stole my thunder. So, yes, we sold the building. I'm very pleased to announce that it will be now converted into affordable housing units. That development is being led by Gorman in partnership with Lutheran Social Services and other partners. We look forward to around an 18-month construction period.
Supervisor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this the most recent? It was updated on April 16th. I mean, we always had been getting a more recent one, like maybe the morning of. Is this, anything's happened since this document?
The only changes was really this, that COGS was sold.
Which happened Friday, Supervisor.
Yeah.
Okay. Because a lot of the, I mean, these are always like a month old by the time we get here. So at least I always requested that we get an updated one, which are usually were updates. But I mean, that's a big update. But if we can still get that, I mean, up to the chairwoman. But
I think that sounds like a novel idea.
Yes, going forward, I'll plan to send the most updated inventory report the morning of the meeting.
Wonderful, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Supervisor Logsdon.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Just a clarity question. On the section that said properties not yet listed, the very last item, I appreciate you're now putting in our district, so we know that it's our district, but I don't think that's my District 9. The address is West Dallas, 16 South 89th Street.
Oh, I apologize. I take it must have just been a typo. So then I'll make sure that gets corrected.
So is it West Dallas though, or is that the typo, or is it the address itself, the street address? I always check out my.
Yeah. The address is correct. I think the district number is incorrect.
Okay, so it's not.
So that should be either 15 or 16 usually. So
thank you for the clarity. Thank you.
I think it's 16 that far west. But- Okay, thank you. If you can just clarify that, that would be wonderful. Any other questions on this report? All right, I don't see any online, so let's go ahead. Thank you so much. Welcome back again. I hope everything's going well with baby.
Yes, thank you.
Madam Coordinator, let's go ahead and read in the next item.
Item 5, from the Director, Office of Economic Inclusion, Department of Administrative Services, providing an informational report regarding participation and departmental waivers of Milwaukee County's targeted business enterprise program and federally funded projects relative to disadvantaged business enterprises and airport concession, disadvantaged business enterprises. This file was considered by the committees on transportation and transit, where at their last meeting, this file was discussed with no action taken, and it is referred to this committee and is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Hello, welcome to the table.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors. Lamont Robinson, Director of the Office of Economic Inclusion. Like others, I want to offer my congratulations to you on chairing the committee. Welcome, Supervisor Roundtree Jr. As the Vice Chair. Welcome, Supervisor O'Connor. But I don't also want to miss Supervisor Taylor and Supervisor Larson that have participated in this committee over the years. So
I appreciate you going through all that because I was going to do it at the end and now I don't have to.
I didn't want anyone to feel left out because I always appreciate reporting to this committee. But I am here this morning to provide an informational report on small business participation across a couple of different programs that the Milwaukee County offers in regards to the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise and Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, which is when federal dollars are associated with contract opportunities. We'll utilize that program. And for contracts that won't have federal dollars, we have our Targeted Business Enterprise, or TBE, program where we will can affect small businesses. So I hope to be clear in this presentation, as I know that we do have some new committee members here. But if there's any questions, or if I need to slow down, or if there's any clarity needed, please don't hesitate to let me know. So for today, I will be doing a year-end wrap-up for 2025. So we'll look at November and December of 2025 along with those year-end numbers for the year. Then from that, we'll transition into the first 2 months of 2026, kind of see where participation is trending there, and then finally provide the committee with an update as to where we sit with the DBE and ACDBE program with some of the changes that came out during the fourth quarter of 2025. So when we look at the month of November, we show about $9.4 million worth of contracts that came through our office. Approximately $1.1 million was deemed eligible for TBE participation. Contracts held by those TBE companies was approximately $243,000, or 20.76% of eligible contract dollars, and 2.5% of total contract dollars. So you'll see for the month of November and December that we removed the DBE part from the equation because we were no longer able to account for any DBE dollars due to those changes that happened in October. So hopefully, as I go through this and they do some explanation at the end, it'll provide greater context to where we sit with these programs. When we look at the breakdown for November, we show the various groups that we track. So you can see how that $243,000 was allocated, with the majority of that going to women-owned business at about $96,000. We show $59,000 to Asian-owned firms, about $58,000 to Black-owned firms, and then small businesses about $29,000 for the month of November. Moving over to December, shoots from that $9 million to about $68 million worth of contracts that were awarded. About $12.4 million was deemed eligible for TBE participation, and contracts held by those TBE companies is about $1.2 million, or approximately 9.88% of eligible contract dollars, and 1.8% of total contract dollars awarded for the month of December. Now here's that breakdown of how that $1.2 million was allocated. About $604,000 was awarded to small businesses, $330,000 awarded to women-owned businesses, about $198,000 awarded to Black-owned businesses, and just shy of $98,000 awarded to Asian-owned businesses. So when we look at the year of 2025, we show about $490 million worth of contracts that came across our desk in the Office of Economic Inclusion. About $150 million of that was deemed eligible for DBE and TBE participation. Contracts held by those DBE and TBE firms was approximately $33.2 million, or 22.10% of eligible contract dollars, and 6.78% of total contract dollars awarded for the year of 2025. When we look at that year breakdown, we see how that $33.2 million was divvied up, with about $8.8 million going to small businesses, $8.6 million to women-owned businesses, about $8.3 million to Hispanic-owned businesses, $3.5 million to Black-owned businesses, about $2.2 million to Asian-owned businesses, and $1.6 million to Native American-owned businesses. So when we look at how that allocation looks across the various years here, previously the tracking had always just kind of been in aggregate. So you just got one big total saying that this is how this is, going to, the groups of small businesses that we track. Since 2022, we've been tracking it by grouping to say, okay, we know what the allocation is, but let's see how that's being divvied up across the groups. So this is a breakdown. I think this is probably the first year of us being able to share this, where we're showing what that breakdown is over the last 4 years. And you can see, how we've gone from $22.9 million of committed participation to the $33.2 million in 2025. When you look at 2024, you're like, okay, well, why the large dip in 25 to 24? A lot of that was based off of the types of contracting that was being awarded in 2024. Much of that was tied to some of the federal funding, those ARPA dollars. So we're going to see, the ebbs and flows of how this program has been working. But for 2024, a lot of it was just derived from the opportunities that were present in 2024 that, aren't present in 2025 and not expected to be available, kind of going forward. So the last two charts, just providing a graph to kind of show what that committed looks like versus the eligible contract spend. So just giving a sense of what that looks like. And then that last graph is just kind of showing by grouping, what that, looks like. So that will end my 2025 wrap up. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments about where we were in 2025 and then get into where we are so far in 2026.
Does anyone on the committee have questions? Yes. Go ahead, Supervisor.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you, Director. My question is, what constitutes other small businesses?
Other small businesses are any businesses that doesn't fall in that group. So those would be small businesses that are owned by majority white male firms. And there are also businesses that are owned where there isn't a majority of ownership, where it's 50-50. So say it's a male and female, there's no majority there, so those would fall under other small businesses. So when we have these groupings, they're identified by 51% of that ownership being of that group. So if we're unable to identify that 51% or greater ownership, they would fall under the other small businesses.
Okay, thank you for that. And then the follow-up to that is that because they're all looped in together that their number is so much higher than all the other groups, or?
Madam Chair, Supervisors, no, that's separate. So when you're talking about the other small businesses, are you saying that these other groupings are lumped in with that? Is that what you're asking?
No. So you know how it says Asian, Black, Hispanic, Native, woman-owned, and then like all other ones are kind of like grouped together. Is that why their awarded number is so much higher than all the other ones? Because if you broke them down like to white male, male and female, like would it be able to be differentiated a bit better versus like just all of them are together? That's why their pool of money is a bit higher.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that question, Madam Chair, Supervisors. Yes, that is a part of that. Could it be pulled out? It could. That information is not always readily available, through the certifications that we're going through. They don't necessarily identify as one type of business. So I'm not saying that it's impossible to get, but it would definitely take more resources to identify exactly who those businesses are, to be able to drill down and be able to separate those out to get a clearer picture of who these other small businesses are.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? And I don't think I see anyone online with questions. Thank you so much, Director Robinson. Appreciate the time that you took with me last week as well to answer all my nitpicky questions on this.
Okay, Madam Chair, we're not done.
What?
We're not done.
Oh, you're not done. Sorry. Then keep going.
That's why I brought my bottle of water. I usually don't stand up here that long.
We have the second report.
But I have,
all right, continue.
A number of things to go over, so I just want to make sure that all that information is available and presented to the committee and to the public. So transitioning now into 2026, this small business report will cover January and February. So let's go ahead and get started. So for the month of January, we show just shy of $30 million of contracts that came through OEI. About $1.9 million was deemed eligible for TBE participation. Roughly $530,000 or 27.28% of eligible contract dollars, and 1.76% of total contract dollars was awarded in January. And again, here's that breakdown of how that $530,000 was divvied up, with $380,000 going to Native-owned businesses, $94,000 to women-owned businesses, just shy of $40,000 to other small businesses, and $15,000 to Black-owned businesses. Moving on to February, we have $82.8 million of awarded contracts. About 8.7 was deemed eligible for TBE or certified business participation. Contracts held by those certified firms, approximately $4.4 million, or 50.8% of eligible contract dollars, and 5.35% of total contract dollars awarded for February. Again, looking at that breakdown of the $4.4 million, about $3.5 million went to those other small businesses. About $600,000 was awarded to Hispanic-owned businesses, $110,000 to women-owned businesses, $95,000 to Black-owned businesses, $78,000 to Asian-owned businesses, and about $14,000 to Native American-owned businesses. So when we're looking at the breakdown for the first 2 months, again, we can see how that $4.9 million has been divvied up.
Can I interrupt really quickly?
Absolutely.
What if it's a Black woman that owns the business? Where does she get put? In woman-owned or Black-owned?
She would be Black-owned, based upon the certification that they use. Some businesses have multiple certifications. Based upon that project that's being asked for, they make the determination on which certification they want to use. So on some projects, they can be Black-owned. In some instances, they can show up as a woman-owned. It's basically derived from the certification that they use for the project that they're going to be working on.
Thank you.
So for the month of January and February, this will conclude my report. And before we jump into the DBE and ACDB program, any questions, or I'd be happy to take any questions or comments about this report so far.
I think we're good to have you keep moving on.
Okay, so getting to the end of this now. As was shared last year and committee meetings so far in 2026, the federal government has made substantial changes to the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise and Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise programs. So when this change was implemented out of the United States Department of Transportation in October, it totally paused all DBE and ACDBE tracking, setting of goals, certifying new firms. It stopped until agencies went through a reevaluation process to determine if those previously certified firms will retain their certification or if they're deemed no longer eligible. What the change did was it took away the previous presumption of individuals meeting the socio portion of the program by race and by gender. So now individuals have to provide a personal narrative to their hardship, to their discrimination here in America in regards to 3 areas: education, employment, and business. Now, it doesn't have to be across all 3. They just need to identify one throughout their life here in the United States. So it's in perpetuity from whether this happened in the 50s or 60s or whether this happened, a month ago. So now that's how that has to be derived. As agencies are doing this, because it affected the entire country, every state UCP agency has to go through this process. And as of about 2 weeks ago, I believe less than 5 states had completed their reevaluation process. Roughly 40 states are in the process of completing their application, and another handful of states haven't even started their reevaluation process. I'm glad to say that we're in that starting the process or in the process. We hope to have the initial process wrapped up maybe in June, but this is the process that has to go through every state agency. So in addition to Milwaukee County, it includes the Wisconsin State Department of Transportation, City of Madison, and Dane County. So collectively, we have to do this. And we've decided to do this in collaboration because if 1 or 2 agencies are out running, program still can't go until the other 2 are caught up. So we're doing this collectively. At the time of the notice, we had roughly 1,300 certified DBE and ACDBE firms in Wisconsin. A little less than 800 were housed in the state of Wisconsin. So the state of Wisconsin is their home state or their primary place of business. So those 500 or so firms that are certified here that are certified or primarily certified elsewhere. They're not a part of this initially. So right now, of those 800 certified firms so far, we have about 200 that have said that they are interested so far in retaining their certification. As this process goes along, we may get more interested, but we're seeing about 20 to 25% of where we once were when we came to certified firms housed here in Wisconsin. So the effort's going to continue to get those firms re-energized about the program, get new firms in, but a lot of the trepidation is surrounded. We just don't know, where this is going, if this is going to be beneficial to us, and we totally understand that. But it will have an implication on DBE and ACDBE goals going forward until we're able to get those numbers back up to show that when we're doing our analysis that we have an ample amounts to set larger goals. Not saying goals won't be set, they'll probably just be set on a smaller scale until we have a greater directory of certified firms. So I will stop there, and again, happy to answer any questions or take any comments in regards to the DBE and ACDBE programs.
Anyone have a question on the committee? I don't see any online. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your time here today. All right. Any other business anyone has? If not, we will adjourn the meeting. Is there anything you need to do? Oh, e-comments. That's right. Do you know if we have e-comments? Okay, go ahead.
Item 6, e-comments submitted to the Committee on Community, Environment, and Economic Development via the County Legislative Information Center click.
All right. Vice Chair, did you notice if there were any e-comments available?
Madam Chair, there are no e-comments.
Okay. If there are any submitted in the future, they will be amended to the report, correct? Attached to the file. All right. Thank you very much. Our next meeting is Monday, June 15th at 9:30 in this room. I will be here. I hope you'll all join me.